Roaming is an essential part of the support role, and it's one of the aspects that makes it so impactful. A lot of support players understand this, but don't know when the best timings are. Here's a list of wave states where you can and can't roam. To simplify things, you can always roam when you crash a wave at the enemy tower because the wave will either start to push towards you or reset to neutral. Let's jump right in with the timing of crashing a wave to the enemy tower and when the wave is pushing towards you. In this example, Kaylin is pushing in the wave and I need to rotate to mid because a fight is breaking out. After she shoves in the wave, she recalls while I'm walking mid to try to help the fight. My team actually wins out on the skirmish before I arrive, so I immediately recall. What's important to look at here is the wave state after she recalls and how many minions she loses because I'm not there. After we shoved in the wave, the enemy wave is going to bounce back to us and start to slow push. The reason why it slow pushes to us is because the minion wave is closer to the enemy side, meaning that the next wave is going to be able to attack our ally minions first. Waves will always start to slow push towards us in this scenario unless we are constantly attacking the wave. When an enemy wave is slow pushing, a lot of the enemy minions don't die because as the enemy wave gets bigger, they are able to kill your minions faster, which is a good thing because our ADC loses out on less minions to farm. Kaylin arrives to lane and has to play back because Thresh is there before me. Because I took the roam, I'm not going to get to lane at the same time as Kate, but we don't actually lose out on any minions because I'm arriving late. Kaylin is able to farm the wave safely because it's pushing towards us and she can eventually farm it safely under our tower, which is when I get back to lane. In the second example, we shove in the wave bot, but instead of roaming right after, I choose to recall because there were no plays to roam to. As I reset, I path mid and look around the map to look for any potential fights, but don't see any, so I start to walk back to bot lane. This wave resets to neutral instead of slow pushing because we killed the wave so fast that the enemy minions did not reach them in time at the tower to stagger. Regardless, this is a good time to roam because even if Kate gets zoned, if Jinx is only last hitting the wave, it will start to push to us. To simplify things, all the roam timings are available after you shove in the enemy wave and the wave is pushing towards you because your ADC loses the least. Now let's look at the timings where you can't roam. The first two timings are basically the opposite of when you can roam in that you can't roam when the wave is bouncing away from you because it can get frozen. Let's say in this example, you leave to roam mid and you leave your Jhin as the wave is pushing away from you. At any point during this time, the enemy support can jump on Jhin and he will die because it's going to be a 2v1. We aren't killing Jhin here right away for example's sake, but in a real game, Jhin wouldn't be able to walk up to hit the minions or even be able to hover around for EXP because the wave is pushing away from him. If the enemy is smart, they will freeze the wave right before their turret and your ADC will lose out on a lot of minions because they cannot walk up without you. If the lane is at this current state, always go to lane to help break the freeze. The next and final time you can't roam is when a big wave is going to crash at your tower. The bigger the wave, the easier it is to dive and your ADC will lose a lot, so avoid roaming during this time. We covered all the wave timers, but there are exceptions to these rules. If there's a fight near you, so somewhere close in the river or your jungle, forget the lane state and help win the fight. In this clip, the enemy bot lane pushed in our lane early and then went to go for an invade on our red. Even though the wave was pushing away from us, we all rotated to protect Bel'Veth's jungle. In most scenarios, when your jungler is getting invaded in their bot side jungle, you should try to rotate to them. This is another exception where there is a pretty big wave about to crash into my tower, but I roam to my team instead. I make the decision to follow this fight instead of going to my ADC because I see that Nautilus is walking up to the river to join them. I know that Aphelios is safe under tower to farm, so because of this I walk straight to the skirmish. Generally, I would avoid roaming to the top side of the map early, but in this case I knew that their jungler and support was going to be in the area, so this was fine. As noted at the start of the video, the most important aspect of a good roam is that your ADC is safe and they will not lose out on a lot of minions. During this time that I'm roaming, Aphelios shouldn't lose out on any minions because he will just be one-on-one in lane with Vayne. For the final part of the video, I want to go over some additional tips for roaming. Whenever you go back, path through your jungle between mid and bot so if any fights happen you can roam to it a lot faster. Second tip, when you are roaming, make sure that there is a possible play, otherwise you'll just be walking without any direction. Third tip, don't linger too long. If you have to wait more than 10 seconds for a play, you should probably just return back to lane. My final tip is that you don't always have to roam just because you have a window to. You can always play for turret plating or just solely play for your AD carry. In the scenario where your AD carry gets very fed early, you can just sit in lane and not roam. Now that you know the windows and have a great understanding of roams, I highly encourage you to try them in your games. When your ADC inevitably rages at you even though you roamed at a correct time, just mute them because all ADCs are stupid.